Well, looks like Elon's done it again and just launched his AI, which will directly compete with the well-known ChatGPT, not just ChatGPT, but also Femini, DeepSeek, Copilot. It'll rival all these AIs that we use so much today, and it's come out swinging, trying to stake its claim, right? Let's see how Elon's move plays out. But yeah, a few days ago, he set up this massive warehouse full of servers, and now we're seeing this beast of a system according to Elon's stats. As you can see here, we've got different benchmarks for math, coding, multimodal, some features and their corresponding graphs, right? And well, talking about performance, of course, it's their page, so this AI is supposed to be promising, right? Let's take a look. This is clearly going to be Twitter's AI, officially Twitter's own AI. This AI will also work within Twitter. It's probably already functioning. I'm not a big Twitter fan. I don't use it much. But yes. And well, I think that's all there is to say about it because not much more explanation is needed. I should mention that this AI can generate images. In fact, if we open it up, let's do that. We can see it has deep search, like Deep Chick, a section for thinking, suggesting ideas, coding. You can create images, analyze info, so it can compete with ChatGPT. Pretty interesting stuff. Let's explore all the options in Elon Musk's new AI. So let's dive in. First, this is what you'll see right when you enter. We have options similar to ChatGPT plus Deep Search, which is like Deep Think. It's quite interesting. We'll see how it works later, along with research tools, idea generation, and data analysis features. These functions use the best format and initial keyword. The next three work similarly. Then we have image creation and coding features. To show how this AI works, I'll share some interesting tests I've done. First, let's look at image generation, like these dragon images I created here. If you want to see how to generate good images, check out my video on image generation with GROK. Another interesting feature it has is Deep Think, which I used to research Nietzsche. The deep search took exactly 54 seconds, about a minute to complete. It used various sources for the search, providing a detailed history of Nietzsche. It did a good job and even included references at the end. This could be quite useful for university work, potentially saving a lot of time on research. It could save us a good amount of time searching for information. Interestingly, I used this AI's data analysis to compare ChatGPT and GROK to assess GROK's reliability and objectivity regarding its competition. It's quite objective with only a few flaws. He's quite objective, stating that GROK's meshmarks performance doesn't surpass GPT. So, setting that aside, he made a big mistake saying it can't generate images from text, which isn't true. TAD GPT can indeed create images. Moving on to the section I enjoy most, coding. I always test it by asking to create Snake using only HTML. I also attached an image to test file handling. It can process any file type perfectly. Here's the impressive result. Let's look at it. It's quite incredible. Here's proof. And there's something important to note. This code uses only HTML, no CSS or JavaScript, yet look how it works. If we restart the game, we can basically begin. If I click here and use the arrow keys, I can play Snake perfectly. As you've seen, I die when I hit the corners. It has all the Snake game features like new apples appearing and the tail growing. It's quite impressive. Honestly, when I tested this with ChatGPT, it couldn't include all these options. When hitting a wall, it just wrapped to the bottom, no game over screen. But pretty good for a first try without any feedback. Maybe this will push ChatGPT to step up its game in terms of programming. The new one is quite fast, but you can see all these features comparing ChatGPT and GROK in a video we have comparing ChatGPT and GROK. Also, there's an option to switch to temporary chat, which basically lets you write anything you want without saving it to your history. They do use it to train the model and may keep it for 30 days, but only for security purposes. So now you know how to use this new AI that might just save your project. What's GROK's take on its creator's controversial greeting? Interesting, isn't it? Since this AI is supposedly so impartial and objective, we should see its opinion, right? Quote unquote. Let's see if it's really that objective. Well, there's the answer it gave us. Let's take a look and analyze it. I won't show you the prompt because I told it not to use a certain word that YouTube doesn't like in the text. So for my YouTube gods, I won't show the prompt. But basically I asked it what it thinks about the controversy over Elon Musk's greeting, you know? As we can see, Musk's gesture at Trump's innovation event on January 20th whatever year. It says some think it was imitating a Roman salute, as Musk is a big Roman history buff, right? And he's fascinated by it. But the real issue is there's no solid proof Romans actually used that straight arm palm up salute. Interesting. Historians like Martin Winkler found no trace of it in Roman art, literature, or coins. It's likely a modern invention, popularized by 19th century artwork and paintings. Are we seeing an AI calling its creator a bit ignorant? If the AI can deduce this wasn't part of Roman culture, it raises some serious questions, doesn't it? Context matters. Such a gesture at a political event with a diverse audience was bound to raise red flags. True, quite an analytical take here. Mas responded on X saying his critics' dirty tricks were exhausted, suggesting he doesn't care much about it. Okay, cool. He says Mas likely didn't consider the consequences. He's impulsive, with a history of controversial tweets and grand gestures, often acting without thinking. Was he trying to honor Rome, maybe? Did he know how it'd be taken? Probably not. Quite interesting, a very thoughtful response, and from my view, quite objective. He gives his final take at the end, which we could say cuts Musk some slack, but everything else is pretty objective. Even the final analysis is quite impartial and provides accurate info. So it's an interesting opinion we're getting, and it achieves a good level of objectivity, honestly. So that's what I think and what Mas seems to think. Let's take a look at what could be the future of our social networks, shall we? Social networks with AI like GROK from Lomas. For this, Twitter has a very interesting section literally called GROK, and in it, as we can see, we have Salsita. It's basically the same idea as GROK, but within Twitter, we can essentially use the chat feature, but within our social network, right? Many people's favorite platform for criticizing others, but anyway, the thing is, it has interesting features that might be the future of social media. We can search for anything to get more information on a topic, maybe about some controversy or something we didn't fully understand, right? We now have AI at our fingertips, quickly accessible within Twitter on our phones, which allows us to be faster, right, when executing these actions. For example, if I can simply ask who Geordie Wild is, he'll search posts and sites, find out and tell me who he is, etc. But what's interesting is that all this info and the search I've done, I can copy the link to share it, maybe in a post, to give more info to people on Twitter, or to share it with a colleague. But I can also save it as a bookmark. I can bookmark this search and find the profile later if needed. I have a chat star and can create chats I want to change. Here, I guess more options will be added later. When more blogs come out, which one we want to use, but we could do such interesting things like this. For example, logging into Twitter one day and going, wow, what a surprise. I'm not sure what I want to see today. We open a new chat and say, give me today's top Twitter headlines. Since it's connected to Twitter, it'll search for today's most popular post. And here we have a summary of the top news, all based on recent trends and context surrounding X, basically from the inside. We can quickly find all this info and get up to speed on platform happenings. I know gossip lovers will find this super handy. And as I said before, you can click here, hit bookmark, go to bookmarks. Sorry, I meant we'd basically go to history. In history, we'd have chats and saved bookmarks. We'd also have an images section. We generate images in GROK, whatever, to upload a title, anything. And we throw in, I don't know, some specific piece. Imagine for work like reporting on something. We could grab and use them, having them here constantly. It's just incredible. I definitely think it's the future of social media. Well, this could be a real game changer. GROK versus Gemini. Two AI tools widely used today, though one's quite new. Let's check their progress and compare them, shall we? We'll see what they can offer. Here's the first test. I gave both the same prompt, and here are the initial results. This is Gemini's output, as you can see, a visually appealing image. The prompt was for a dragon like this with an Egyptian city backdrop. It's done the job quite well, even adding a frame, as we can see. Great scale, quite impressive, a very high quality image, and here's GROK's example. This is the image GROK generated from the first prompt. As we can see, the dragon lacks some details, the wings don't look great in the back, and the legs are a bit odd. As for the city, it's pretty good, but the image feels blurry. A good thing about this AI is that when we ask for images, it generates two. It failed me this time. You know these things sometimes fail, but it usually gives us two options. This gives us choices. Here we can't see wings, but it only made one image. We need to keep that in mind. Let's look at those snake games it generated. I must say, Mini did it twice as fast. It's incredible how quickly this software works. Look, I input the prompt, it starts programming. But with GROK, for example, I start a new chat, give the same prompt, and it takes longer, tells me more about itself. Though it's faster than ChatGPT, if not these. Alright, let's see how each of these snake games works, shall we? It just moved from one side to the other smoothly. Pretty good on the first try. I didn't need to tweak anything for it to do this. First attempt was quite good, very nice. Now let's check out Gemini's code. This is the screen it generated. Let's see how it runs. If I try to start it again, the game starts automatically. I don't even have time to get ready. It shows game over and won't let me restart. That's pretty bad because I don't have time to think. I need to click down here and everything. Can't even start it. I expected better in this aspect, to be honest. Let's see. The arrow keys aren't working either. Nope. Here, GROK has definitely outperformed and beaten Gemini. And finally, we're going to do the ultimate test, translating a table from one of my videos into English. It's handling the table well. I'll ask it to convert to Excel. It says it can't generate Excel, but will give an Excel file directly. So I can copy this now, paste it into Excel, and it should arrange in columns. Let's see if it works. We'll use Ctrl+Shift+5 to paste without formatting. As we can see, it pastes perfectly, all well separated, so test passed. Now let's see how Gemini handles this task. It's done it, but the description part is missing. Let's see if it understands and converts to Excel format. We'll copy and paste it below. The Excel format isn't right either. In this case, it didn't work well. So here, I have to give a point to GROK because it did well, unlike Gemini. For artistic work, Gemini might be a better option, but for tables or logical tasks like this code we generated, GROK, Elon Musk's new AI, might serve you better. Group versus Copilot, let's see which is better and how each works. So let's begin first. We'll do an image test to see how each performs. Here's how it'll work Group while Microsoft Copilot works. As we see, Group is already generating the first images quite fast, and this program always gives us 2 images, which is interesting as we have a choice. Copilot has already generated its image. As we can see, it's a pretty good image. I asked for a dragon with a giant Egyptian city background, and it's well generated. The Egyptian city and dragon are well integrated in the image. Now let's look at Group. It's not bad at all, generates well, but has some minor flaws, we could say. Overall, it's well created, though the scale looks a bit off. The image is blurry, so I think Copilot is much better than GROK in this aspect. In the second part, as you can see, we'll ask it to generate a snake game from scratch in HTML code. I like this test as it quickly shows if it programs well. Both generated it fast, but Copilot is taking a bit more time to create the code. Let's look at GROK's code and see how it works. If I use the arrows, the game works. I can eat apples and it functions each time. Let's see if I hit a wall. Game over. Pretty good. When I played with ChatGPT before, hitting walls made you pass through. So very good. A pretty impressive result. I've literally only said 2 words and it generated the game very quickly. Let's see how Microsoft Copilot does. Let's check it out. I can move, eat, add balls. Let's see if I crash. Game over. No game over screen appears, but pretty good. The game ended. Quite interesting. Both are quite similar, but I think the interface with dots and all was a bit better than Groups. Now, let's ask for a Spanish to English table to see how it handles that task. We'll test each program and then transfer to Excel to see if we can add it to our spreadsheet. So far, they're doing quite well. At first, Copilot said it couldn't create tables with copyrighted content. I told it the rights are mine. It's my table. Let's see how it does. It skipped a section and didn't even do the part. Neither the list nor the description works. Let's see, it can't export the table to Excel, but it can generate a format for me to copy. Though the table isn't well made, so it wouldn't be useful in the case of ComfUI. Sorry, I meant GROK. I got confused. It didn't generate well at first, but with another try, it worked. I asked it to export to Excel, and it gave me a format to copy and paste. Let's see how it works and if it copies and pastes well. Let's go to Spreadsheets and paste the gross output with Shift+V. Looks like it worked well. Yes, correct. It pasted properly. In Copilot's case, it didn't work well, so it wouldn't be useful. So we have to give a point in favor of gross in this case. Finally, for comparison, Microsoft Copilot might be better for artistic tasks like the drawing we saw earlier. But for more logical tasks, Gross's program seems to be more precise and accurate. Zamio Group versus DeepSeek. Let's see which one is better. We'll run some tests to compare the Chinese and American AIs. Interesting. I usually start these tests with image generation, but that's not possible here as DeepSeek can't create images. Point for Mazamio Group, which can generate images. Let's compare their deep search to DeepSeek's. I asked a simple question about Nietzsche to test their deep search speed and function. In their deep search, both show their process, which is good. We can see their sources and method. Now we can see both results. First, Gro's result. It gives key points, explains who Friedrich is, and lists his works and notes quite thorough. He's given us conclusions and even cited sources which could be really useful for a project or fieldwork. Additionally, we then looked at DeepSeek, which also provided results, but as we can see, it wasn't as comprehensive. It listed major works and contributors, but didn't offer any conclusions or those final citations that we're often after when doing a deep search. We want more info, and it seems it's not giving us as much as it could. So another point for Grow here. Now, a new chat. Let's see how they generate a snake game, how each would work with code, and we'll test it using HTML code. It depends on how effective that programming has been. As we can see, this is the code Grow generated for us. So let's do the first test with Grow. This is the screen he created. Let's try it. As we can see, we can add apples, perfect. And if I crash into a wall, it's game over. Pretty good. It adds score shows, game over, adds tail for apples, quite well done. In fact, when I tell ChatGPT, I always say you hit walls and come out elsewhere. So there's never a game over, so well done. Plus, it's the first try. I simply gave it a short prompt to make snake in HTML and it did it. Finally, DeepSync gave me its code. I copied and pasted it in CodePen and will test it. From what I see, for some unknown reason, it's not working. I don't really understand why it's not working. I'm not sure why. I asked it to do it, but it's not functioning. As you can see, I tried, but it told me it couldn't generate it. Just in HTML, it didn't even attempt it. GROK at least did try. So good effort, but it seems it can't do it. Another point for GROK. So finally, it looks like we're going to conclude, based on what we've done, from my perspective, that I think it's better. Basically, in terms of images, it can create, and DeepSync can't even create images. Plus, with Deep Search, it was much more comprehensive and gave us more info, which is what we want when we do a deep search. DeepSync was super brief and didn't even cite its sources. We can look them up, but of course having citations is much easier. Plus we have a chronological order here of the works he did and everything. And finally, for the snake game, DeepSync didn't even make it. It tried but failed, whereas GROK actually did it. So with all this in mind, from my point of view and from what we've seen in this tutorial, GROK is significantly better and closer to an improvement than DeepSync. Elon Musk's new AI versus ChatGPT, which is better? Let's find out. I love starting with images, so we gave both AIs the same prompt. Here's what they generated. ChatGPT was slightly faster, but GROK gives 2 images, offering more choices. I've always wished one AI could generate multiple images at once. GROK's dragon isn't bad, but it's improvable. The skill looks a bit off. ChatGPT's image clearly shows AI influence, but the dragon design is better overall. I feel it better captured my vision with superior artistic design. Here we have the typical ChatGPT option to remove things, where we can directly ask it to remove something and it will do it. So that's a point in favor of ChatGPT. Next, let's ask it to create a snake game from scratch in HTML code. I love this test because I can quickly see how it develops the game. We'll use the latest ChatGPT and the normal GROK chat for this. I'll copy and paste GROK's response and we'll see how it works. We can eat apples, grow the tail, and if we hit the edge, we get a game over plus a score based on apples eaten. So it's pretty good and accurate to the real game. ChatGPT's done it, so let's copy this code and see how it works. We start with the tail too. It moves smoother and we don't die when we don't crash. So the game becomes endless. This always happens with ChatGPT. It doesn't get when there should be a game over. The interface is better and more accurate here, but the game isn't fully integrated, so it's a 50-50 split between the two. They each excel in different areas. Lastly, I always like to test translating Spanish tables to English and copying them into a spreadsheet. I've used ChatGPT for this a lot, and I can say ChatGPT works well with the right prompt, giving structured results in any language. But GROK did it first try, while ChatGPT gave me more trouble with these tables. From my perspective, GROK is more efficient here. It's given me fewer issues and creates tables directly. I could copy and paste this into a table and it formats it perfectly, dividing it into columns and rows. GROK, unlike DeepSync, has deep search for more thorough searches, which ChatGPT can't do. ChatGPT has OE1, but that's for advanced reasoning, not exhaustive searching. It's different. For image creation, GROKs aren't as good as ChatGPT's, but it generates 2 images. ChatGPT has better images and 001 for interfaces, though it lacks deep search. It programs quite well and is good at solving errors. GROK fixes code too, but maybe not as visually appealing as ChatGPT would. ChatGPT has helped me a lot and fixed important code issues several times. Not enough time to fully assess GROK, but it's on track to catch up with ChatGPT, its main competitor. I can show you different styles I've created and explain how image generation works with this app. Keep in mind it's not primarily for creating images, so don't expect too much. Still, it's not bad. And there's one important thing this AI does. It creates 2 images from one, which I think is important. Usually we only get 1 image, which limits our options. We often have to keep changing the prompt to get what we want. Here we had more starting options. Regarding image quality, it's worth noting that when I asked for a dragon in fancy dress, it struggled with some concepts. The image scale is quite low in most cases. As you can see, the 2 images aren't great quality, they're quite basic. It's like they've been through a blur filter. They don't look good compared to other AI's output, right? These AI image generators are similar to ChatGPT, but they're better at creating images. They offer interesting features like GPTV's ability to remove unwanted elements. I used Bronx to generate these samurai images, but as you can see, the quality isn't great. It's quite low and the AI misinterprets some things, like this one where the hand looks odd and is holding the sword strangely. The katana here is more of the same, right? This one's a bit off. The grain isn't quite right. It's a bit strange. To be honest, it's all a bit wrong, but the composition isn't bad. Maybe with time, this could improve and be a good tool. For now, the only positive is that it gives us 2 images. Why sugarcoat it? Let's try new images. From what I've seen, it has much less censorship than other apps. So maybe you can work more freely on your projects without politically correct censorship limiting your images. Well, we'll have to start testing it out. How can we obtain the GROK API? Well, as many of you might think, it's not within the program or in any of these spaces you might be considering. Instead, if we search for GROK online, we go to GROK3's website. There we'll find an API section where we can start working. We can generate our API key there to use in our program, allowing us to automate various workflows. You'll find different sections like Explorer, API keys, and more. There are many options for developers and anyone interested in using this API. And finally, the question many of you asked: how much does Elon Musk's new super AI cost? First, let's clarify that there's obviously a free tier similar to ChatGPT. You have a free version with a limited number of tokens, which eventually runs out until they regenerate, but there's also a paid version available. This paid version costs €30 per month or €300 per year. With this format, essentially what we get is more tokens and a higher rate limit, access to GPT-3 thinking, only available with the paid version, access to GPT-3 deep search, and unlimited image generation. We could generate as many high quality images as we want, so these are the options and pricing for this new app or software, whatever you want to call Elon Musk's creation.